Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. You know what we're talking about today. Kyle Schwarber is an unstoppable force of nature with a baseball bat that can hit a ball a quarter mile, and he did it 4 times last night. We'll talk about the historic night on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that if you're checking us out in podcast form, and we are available wherever you get your podcasts, that you're rating and reviewing. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, all of that good stuff. Subscribing is free and easy, and it also gets you notifications when new episodes are posted. That way you never miss anything. Like Kyle Schwarber's 4 home run night. So go ahead and do that if you enjoy our content. You're on Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You can enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. What a night for Kyle Schwarber. Unbelievable, historic, MVP caliber performance when his team needed him. Maybe not the most because, well, he was quiet in the series against the Mets. But did that wipe everything from the Mets series? How much did the Phillies win you back last night? We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're also going to preview Game 2 with the Braves because one night doesn't turn everything around. You got to keep things going. So we will talk about if the Phillies can keep this momentum. But come on, I'm not going to delay any further. Kyle Schwarber is flat out amazing. A historic night, 4 home runs, only the 21st man in the history of baseball to do that at the major league level. It was incredible. He set the Phillies single game RBI record with 9, and none of his home runs were cheap shots. No. Pulled 3 nukes. Oppo, get it out of here. 4 home runs. Could have had a 5th and faced a position player in the bottom of the 8th inning and unfortunately popped up. Could you imagine if that was how he got to be the first person in Major League history to hit 5 home runs in a game? But we'll take 4. It was historic what he did. Just so you know, in case you don't have the proper framing for how rare it is to see a guy hit 4 home runs in a night, there have been fewer 4 home run games in the history of baseball than there have been perfect games thrown. Yeah, that's how special it is. You want to know something else crazy while we're just talking about the history of last night and I guess this season? It's the 3rd 4 home run game this season at the major league level. Nick Kurtz of the Athletics and Eugenio Suarez of the then Diamondbacks both had 4 home run games earlier this year. Oh, and it gets weirder. Suarez's 4 home run game was also against the Braves. Could you imagine a team getting perfect gamed twice in a season? The Braves have accomplished something more rare this year, and not in a good way. So, well, it's your guys' problem down there in Atlanta. It was great. And it wasn't just Schwarber. The Phillies scored 19 runs. Everybody contributed. Kepler, yard. Realmuto, yard. Harper, yard. The Phillies hit 7 home runs in the game. They had 20 hits again for the 3rd time in like a week and a half or like 2 weeks. They had 2 against the Mariners and now another one of those 20 hit performances against the Atlanta Braves. But Kyle Schwarber, man, you got to love what he did last night, and you got to love the spot he did it in, even though he was not good in that series against the Mets, and that may be an understatement. I mean, he was a big-time issue for the Philadelphia Phillies lineup because he wasn't producing up at Citi Field. You can't just completely be like, oh, well, that's okay, because you need him in the biggest moments. But he came out after that series against the Mets, and he basically said, we're not fazed, all right? We've been swept before. We've had setbacks before. This is a veteran team. We've proven we can bounce back. We're going to bounce back. Everyone has the right mentality in that clubhouse. We're focused. We're going to get back after it tomorrow night against the Braves. And he took care of business. See, I kind of not poked fun. I don't know the right way to term it, but I kind of scoffed, we'll just say, at those Kyle Schwarber comments after the Mets series. Because sure, you can say all the stock lines of, oh, we're a veteran team, we've been here before, we just got to get back to work, flush it, move on, all of that stuff. But I don't want to see this team talk about it. I want to see this team be about it. I want to see them go out there and take what's theirs to dominate a baseball game. And while they didn't do that in the Mets series, they sure as heck bounced back at home at Citizens Bank Park last night in all facets, but mainly with Kyle Schwarber. And it's fitting that after a top of the first inning where Aaron Nola gave up 3 runs, that Kyle Schwarber was the spark that really lit the Philadelphia Phillies offense. He goes yard in the bottom of the first, one of 3 home runs the Phillies hit in that inning. And then from that point forward, it was just pedal to the metal. God bless Cal Quantrill for waking up this Phillies offense. And for anyone who's looking at it and saying, well, Schwarber only did that, the Phillies only did that because Cal Quantrill's terrible. Look at Sean Manaea's numbers. He's been really bad for the Mets this year, and he shut down the Phillies, right? So the Phillies have made bad pitchers look good recently. And that means you shouldn't take last night for granted. But there's some other things that should tell you that you shouldn't take last night for granted. It's the history of it all. What you've just seen is one of the great single game performances in the history of Philadelphia sports. Not the Philadelphia Phillies. No, in the history of Philadelphia professional sports. There have been only 3 other instances in Phillies history where a guy has hit 4 home runs in a game. Mike Schmidt had one. Ed Delahanty had one. And why is the third guy besides Kyle Schwarber escaping me? It's going to drive me insane. Was it Dick Allen? Did Dick Allen have one? Let me look it up, and we'll go ahead and get you that, because I'm just so zoned in on Kyle Schwarber's game last night that I can barely form sentences. Like, I still am in disbelief of what we saw. It doesn't happen. And the question that I got a lot on social media, at the radio station earlier today, hosting the morning show, filling in, why did they keep pitching to him? It's a fair question, because I would never throw Kyle Schwarber a strike, like ever, ever, ever. And the Mets worked around him, and he got himself out way, way more than he should have, right? So I don't know exactly why the Braves continued to throw him strikes, but they did, and Kyle Schwarber just took advantage over and over and over again. It was a beautiful thing. Chuck Klein, the other Philly to have a 4 home run game. Sorry about that, Chuck Klein, who did it way back in 1936. This is the first time since 1976 a Philly has done it. Mike Schmidt, the one who did it there. So that is what? Let's do the math. 30, 40, almost 50 years since Mike Schmidt last accomplished this feat, right? That's the type of performance where you say, okay, this guy deserves the MVP. This guy deserves whatever money he wants to get paid this offseason. This guy deserves to be the vocal leader of this clubhouse, because you can see why guys follow him. This guy deserves to be considered one of the great power hitters in today's game. This guy, Kyle Schwarber, deserves to be remembered when his time playing in the city is done. And hopefully that's a long time from now. And Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies get an extension done with him, or rather a new contract done with him after this season's done. Kyle Schwarber is going to go down as one of the great Phillies of all time. And he was just a signing that fit with Nick Castellanos and added to a core that the Phillies were trying to build. When they brought him in here, he was not the savior. No, that was Bryce Harper. He was not this plus defensive player. No, that was JT Realmuto. He was not this ace of the pitching staff, and that was kind of Zach Wheeler, but not even really Zach Wheeler. He turned into that. Kyle Schwarber was a great power hitter that fit into the DH slot the first year that the Phillies were able to use one in the National League. And boy, could they have never imagined the type of production that they got out of him. It's incredible. And when you see a night like that last night, it's one of those where were you moments. And it's also one that inspires, right? If you could have picked a better answer to getting swept by the Mets, I don't know what it could have been. I think it was the perfect answer, not just from Schwarber, but from all of his teammates as well, the Phillies offense in general. It does not make up for the Mets series, and we're going to talk about that coming up in just a little bit. about how much did last night win you over. 1 game doesn't equal 3 games. And 4 games, this whole pocket of games that we're looking at between the 3 in New York and the first in Atlanta, does not a season make, right? There's a lot still to be determined, and there's a lot more that we already knew about this Philadelphia Phillies team. But it was not a physical defeat against the Mets. It was not a they're better than you defeat at the Mets. It was a mental defeat when they played the Mets the past 3 games before this one against the Braves. And the fan base psyche was messed up because of that. My psyche was messed up. I was as angry as I've been in a long time on this podcast after that Mets series. So while it does not undo the wrongs that the Phillies had up there at Citi Field, we just needed a vibes game. And boy, did they get an all-time vibes game. Harrison Bader, a homer away from the cycle. He had an awesome night. Aaron Nola became 3rd all-time in Phillies franchise history in strikeouts, passing Cole Hamels in that game. There were a lot of great things. It reminds me of the Michael Lorenzen no-hitter, where you go, okay, he had the no-hitter. Weston Wilson hit his first career home run in his first at-bat. Nick Castellanos hit his 200th career Major League home run in that game. It was just like, oh, there's so many storylines, and it all gets overshadowed by this thing that you almost never see. And that is exactly the game that we got from Kyle Schwarber last night at the bank. So if you were there, I hope you loved it. If you were watching on TV, I hope you loved it. And if you're a Phillies fan, I hope it won you back at least a little bit. But how much? Because I can't totally turn heel and avoid what I talked about the last 3 days. No, there are still issues with this team. What does 1 game mean to win you back over? We will talk about it, and I'll tell you where I'm at as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk a little bit about a new sponsor here, a new friend we have here on Locked On Phillies, Zippix. If you need a boost to power through the day without reaching for another cup of coffee or an energy drink, that's where Zippix caffeine toothpicks come in. Instead of the crash you get from sugary drinks, Zippix gives you a clean, convenient burst of caffeine anytime, anywhere. And if you're looking for that nicotine satisfaction, they've got Zippix nicotine toothpicks as well. It's way better than smoking. It's way better than that coffee or energy drinks for the energy ones. They're so awesome. They're just normal toothpicks. They're flavored, and the flavors are great. I've been ripping the mocha ones lately. It literally tastes like chocolate, and it gives you this nice burst of energy that keeps you focused on your day, allows you to get through the tasks you need to get through, right? Super simple. They come in packs, but the toothpicks themselves, oh man, they're easy to carry around. They're very, very small, not noticeable or anything like that, and you just look like you have a normal toothpick in. So nobody's asking you, hey, what's that? Or what are you doing? Or anything like that nature. Are you tired? No, you can't even tell. They're great. The flavors are legit. It's honestly an awesome product. And I'll tell you this straight up. I did not know that they were sending us samples. And I thought somebody had one of my friends had gotten these for me, or like maybe my mom had ordered them and sent them to my apartment. No. So I've just been using them without knowing. And I'm so glad to know that they are one of our sponsors, because I could not endorse this product anymore. If you're ready to try them, and you should be, go to zippixtoothpicks.com, and that's Zippix toothpicks.com, and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get 10% off your first order. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code Locked On. Zippix Toothpicks, energy and focus anytime you need it. All right, I got to tell you about our survey that we've been going on. If you haven't heard in the last couple of episodes, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you very much for helping us out. So let's talk a little bit more about the team in general. Like, what did we learn, and how much did they win you back with that monster blowout win over the Atlanta Braves? 19-4 the final in that game. So we'll start with, did they win you back? And then we'll go into some of the things we learned and maybe didn't learn that some people might jump to conclusions on, right? So we knew the Phillies were a good baseball team. We knew they were, even after losing 3 of 3 to the Mets. But people were down in the dumps. I was down in the dumps. You heard me. Very angry on this podcast. Some days defeated on this podcast this week. So did they win me back? No, they did not. And here's the reason. Because it's kind of just we talked about vibes game in the first segment. It was a gut check up there in New York, and the Phillies did not step up. And I'm not saying this because the Braves are not a postseason opponent, right? It's not the quality of team. It's more the spot, the level of game you're playing in. Like, I don't mind the Phillies, losing or winning regular season games against regular opponents, right? And the Braves are not in the divisional race in the National League East. They're done, right? They're cooked. You saw it last night, why they are where they are in the standings. So you could beat, an American League team that's maybe a really good team, like the Seattle Mariners series, for example. That was great. I was excited. But ultimately, playing the high-level teams in the National League and the high-level team in your division that's trying to chase you down in the New York Mets, who, by the way, super weird, lost to the Marlins 7-4 at Citi Field last night. It really is just the Phillies can't beat the Mets and the Mets own the Phillies. But at some point, you got to really, and I said it a billion different ways, but you got to toughen up and go beat that team. And it's not like I came out of that Mets series saying this Phillies team is incapable of playing good baseball. They're incapable of hitting the ball out of the yard. They're incapable of a 20-hit performance. They're incapable of holding a team to 4 runs or less. I'm like, no, I didn't feel that way. I just felt that they can't do it against that team. And that's why this doesn't win me back over, right? Because at some point, you're going to have to prove that when the lights are brightest, you're going to consistently step up. And the Phillies have shown glimpses of that in the past, but they haven't done it consistently enough to win a World Series, to consistently beat the Mets, whatever you want to set the bar at. They just seem to crumble far too often in the big spots. And that bothers you, right? Especially because it's the Mets and we all hate the Mets. So no, I am not won over. I'm not sitting here saying I take back everything I said after that Mets series. Now, there are some things that were immediately proven as invalid. And that's fine. I feel good about being wrong when I'm negative on this team. And I'm rarely negative on this team. So normally if I am, I've been given a good reason to be so. But I can't then all of a sudden flip around and see one game and be like, you know what? Forget everything you saw in New York. We were wrong. That was a weird one-off series. We'll move on. Because that was not a weird one-off series. This team struggles in that building. Luckily, they do not have to play there again, potentially for the rest of the season, but at least the rest of the regular season. So let's move on to what we learned and what we didn't learn. Let's start with Aaron Nola. Nola gets in trouble in the top of the first inning. Gives up 3 runs, looked rough. We're like, oh boy, here we go again. This team, they're going to get smoked, and the nightmare continues. And then he settled in. But he settled in after getting a 5-3 lead, and then the Phillies offense adding on. So the tough thing with Nola is, one, you can look at his 6 innings worth of work. 4 runs given up, 2 home runs allowed, but only 4 hits, and say, okay, well, it's better. And he had some good strikeout stuff at points in the start, and that's good. But then you look at the offense and what they did, and you say, okay, great. You know why you were able to pitch so well? Because the Braves kind of gave up because your offense was killing Cal Quantrill, right? It was not a 1-run game and Nola's battling while the Braves are locked in. It felt like the Braves were like, okay, well, this one's over, whatever. And that makes it tough to evaluate whether or not Aaron Nola's settling down was him, or was it the Braves realizing that they didn't have a prayer if Kyle Schwarber was going to just keep hitting baseballs into orbit. And that's more what I felt like. So I still don't know what Aaron Nola is. Is he the first inning guy that was struggling? Is he the next 5-inning guy that settled in? Did any of that matter because the offense was doing so well? I don't know. For the Phillies offense, was it Cal Quantrill? Because I know I said the thing about Sean Manaea and how his numbers have not been great this year. The Phillies could not hit him. So that would seem to lend to the idea that I hold high regard for anyone who had a great night last night, even though it was Cal Quantrill. But that's not quite how I'm feeling, right? I do think that you should still celebrate the win and the 19 runs and the 4 home runs by Schwarber and everything, right? I'm not trying to get you to be a Debbie Downer today in one of the great performances that you'll ever see from a Philadelphia Phillies player. But what I am just saying is there's only so much you can take away from a 1-game sample size against a team that has struggled this year. And also, you are the Braves Mets, right? What the Mets are to you, you are to Atlanta and have been for coming up on 3 years now. And what that means, just like how the just how the Mets lost to the Marlins last night, 7-4, because they weren't playing the Phillies anymore. I don't know how much stock I can put into the Phillies beating the Braves. You just kind of own this team. It's got to be more consistent. So I'm not saying, hey, plan the parade, World Series, they're back, they're winning it, all of this stuff. No, that's way too hasty, and I don't want to jump the gun. And I'm still frankly ticked off. I don't know if it makes me more mad or more calm that the Phillies did this in their first game not playing at Citi Field. Really? It's that big of a difference between playing the Mets and any other team? It's that easy for you to flip the switch against everybody else, but not them? And maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but part of me is a little bit ticked off about that. Wow, it really is just a Mets thing. And that means it really is just mental. And they need to be better with that. But it's a tough day to nitpick because the Phillies were so damn good last night in pretty much every aspect of the game that I got to give them their flowers. I got to show them their love. And of course, we all had to enjoy that game last night. Now, does it get wiped away if they go out today and they get smoked or they lose? Well, it could. And that may not be fair to some of the individual performances, but to the team, it's very fair. So coming up, we're going to talk about Game 2, where the Phillies have another opportunity to get after a struggling pitcher. And they need to continue to stack wins because they're now in the 2 seed in the National League, and they need to hold right there. How quickly things can be fixed and how quickly they can fall back apart if things don't go their way, which is why we preview Game 2, Phil's Braves, as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about 5-Hour Energy first, though, because it's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime-flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game, whether you're out on the course or maybe you just need a little extra push to power through your day. 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. There are wild times on the golf course, and if you are not awake enough, well, you could miss the opportunity to make the biggest shot of your life. And also, if you're a weekend warrior golfer like me, and like pretty much all of us out there, you know that golf fits in between all the other stuff that we really have to do. So sometimes you're pretty tired when you step on that first tee. Had a lot of stuff going on night before, day of, anything. You need that energy. So you get the transfusion, the grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion, and it gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart and that boost of energy you need. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. So can the Phillies keep it going? And can Ranger Suarez keep it going? That's part of the conversation surrounding Game 2 of this series with the Braves, a 4-game set. So we will see what the Phillies are able to get done. They made the big news in sports yesterday, besides the Micah Parsons trade. Check out all of our channels on Locked On NFL Network to figure out what's going on with that. And that's good for the Eagles as well. That's why I'm wearing my Eagles hat and my Eagles sweater today for this episode. But of course, Kyle Schwarber, the big story for us here on Locked On Phillies. Following it up, it's a tough act to follow. And Ranger Suarez has that first task tonight. He's been really, really good lately. In his last 2 starts, I've loved what I've seen from him. Sunday, the 24th, he goes out, throws 7 innings of shutout ball with 11 strikeouts against the Nationals. The game before that, Monday, the 18th, he goes out and throws 6 2/3 against the Seattle Mariners, 2 earned, 4 hits, 10 Ks. So his last 2 starts, a total of 13 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 21 strikeouts. That's about as good of a 2-game stretch as Ranger Suarez has had all year. And it comes on the heels of him struggling big time. He had 11 strikeouts in his previous 3 starts combined before he went on that 2-game stretch with Seattle and Washington. So is Ranger figuring it out? Well, they could certainly use it with the Zach Wheeler news and everything that is still fresh-ish for the Philadelphia Phillies and something that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of the season. Guys need to step up. Ranger's one of them. If he goes out there again today and throws, or tonight, I should say, and throws a gem and strikes out 7 or 8 and holds the Braves to like 2 runs or less through 6+ innings of work, I'm ready to say, okay, put him in the playoff rotation. We're ready to rock. Ranger Suarez is back. I'm already like right on the edge of saying that with 2 great starts, but I'd like to see it one more time before I fully put the stamp on he's going to be fine. We shouldn't have worried. Well, we should have worried because he always has rough times in latter parts of seasons. But maybe this is Ranger bearing down saying, contract year, I can't let that happen. Somebody who's not bearing down is the guy who's throwing for the Atlanta Braves tonight, and that's Bryce Elder. He has had a nightmare year. 5-9 record, a 6.12 ERA. In 117 2/3 innings pitched, he has struck out 96. So not a strikeout in inning guy, which means you can be a little bit patient. He has walked 45 batters. His command has been terrible, and he's given up 20 home runs. So nearly double the amount of walks as Ranger Suarez has in more innings, exactly double the amount of home runs given up as Ranger Suarez has in more innings. Bryce Elder is very, very hittable, and he's another righty, so you can just settle back in there and say, okay, let's get this job done. Second righty, second hittable righty. We've seen these guys well in the past. Can we see him well again tonight? Now, what Rob Thompson does with the lineup is going to be very interesting. Kepler goes yard last night. Bader almost hits for the cycle. Marsh put together some good at-bats. What do? Can you take Kepler out of the lineup against another righty? I don't know. Can you take Marsh out of the lineup against another righty? I don't know. Can you take Harrison Bader out of the lineup? I don't know. Bader, by the way, starting to heat up. He's hitting over 300 since the Phillies acquired him. He started off really slow. He's getting more playing time. He's starting to pay dividends. I want him every day playing. I want Brandon Marsh pretty much playing every day, especially if there's a righty. And that leaves a very intriguing quandary in right field. Do you sit Nick Castellanos again? Are you able to sit him down and play Max Kepler over him because Kepler had a great game last night? Or do you have to continue the rotation to keep everybody fresh? It's a tough job for Rob Thompson, but somebody's got to do it. And we will see what they go with. Now, me personally, I would probably have Kepler back out there in a vacuum. But for the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm playing Nick Castellanos. And part of that reason is because I can't risk losing Nick Castellanos mentally, right? We've already known he's had the complaints about the defensive replacement earlier this year. He had the one game that he sat for because of that. We'll call it a suspension, even though it wasn't like billed as a suspension. That's essentially what it was for mouthing off in response to the defensive replacements thing. So I don't want to get to a place where Nick Castellanos is like on the outs with this team, because we know in the postseason, if he's hot, he is one of the more dangerous hitters in this lineup. And I don't want him to just play like once every other day or every third day or whatever like that. But I do want to continue to see Kepler against righties right now because he's starting to swing the bat much, much better. So it's a tough task for Rob Thompson to figure out what he's going to do. Maybe you sit Marsh, who is already kind of that yo-yo player that will start one day, sit one day, start one day, sit one day. I do want to see Marsh play, but maybe you start Kepler in left, Bader in center, Castellanos in right. 2 righties against a righty, though? I don't know. It'll be really – this is one of the tough choices for Rob Thompson that he'll have to make. Either way, I don't think he can go wrong with this. The real question for tonight's game, on top of all of that, is does the guy who hits home runs in bunches continue to hit them in bunches? Kyle Schwarber is a guy where if he has a series where he gets hot, he can hit 3, 4, 5 home runs in a series. The problem is he's already hit 4 just in one game alone. Is that it? Or is he going to stay hot? Will he hit another tonight? 2 more tonight? 3 more tonight? Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine, but anything's possible for Kyle Schwarber. I would not predict against him hitting another home run tonight. Same goes for Bryce Harper, who put one into the second deck last night and doesn't even get talked about. That's the beautiful thing and the kind of unfair thing about a 4 home run performance. Is it covers everything else for better or for worse. But Kyle Schwarber deserves that claim. He deserves that praise. And man, how lucky are we to have him as part of this baseball team. Tonight, another night where you get to watch that guy try and hit baseballs into outer space. And that's just, it feels so much more fun when the Phillies are doing what they did last night. So do I expect them to go get 19 again tonight? No. Do I expect them to have 20 hits again tonight? No. But do I expect them to win the baseball game and continue to play that way? Absolutely. Against every team not named the New York Mets, that is the expectation. And we'll cross that bridge, not the physical bridge up there that you have to cross to get to Flushing up in Queens. But no, the bridge of playing the Mets when we get there. But for now, everyone take a deep breath. We may be back to your regularly scheduled program here for the Phillies 2025 season. That's all for your regularly scheduled podcast program here on Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.